Hello everyone and welcome back to another single button guide. Today we're going to talk about the Unholy Death Knight. We have done a few polls and the Unholy Death Knight was the supreme winner. So we're going to talk about the Unholy Death Knight today and how it's going to work with the single button assistant. So as always, as you can see, we're going to do the intro, talk about stats, talents, rotation, gameplay, where we're going to do like a 10-minute dungeon, and then we're going to end with this summary. In case you joined or you just want to know everything about this video in 3 minutes, you should be jumping directly to the summary and the end of the video where I will show you everything in 3 minutes. But if you really want to know everything about the spec and really know every single talent and stats and everything, you should watch the entire video. By the way, if you want the talents for this video, basically the talents, the UI, export strings, everything that is related with this build here, you should go to my Discord. Over there, I have a very nice library where you can see here that I show all the different specs in there. You can click on the spec you want, and then basically they're going to be the talent, the macros, the UI, anything you need is going to be in there on the Discord. It's easier for me to have them in here instead of having them then in the comment section here on YouTube. So just to let you know, they are all there over in my Discord if you want the talents and the UI links and so on. But let's jump into the video and let's talk about the Unholy Death Knight. So when it comes to stats, the first one is strength. So basically what I mean by that, you could say, well, doesn't all Death Knights use that? What I mean by that is we should try go for the highest upgrade level, aka highest eye level. Because for example, if you look at my weapon, which is a upgrade level called the Explore. It's actually the worst upgrade level you can get, but you know, still, I guess, decent items. So basically, I would only change my weapon if the item, the other weapon I'm finding, was a stronger, a higher upgrade level. So right now I'm an Explorer, but if I found an Adventurer, Veteran, Champion, Hero, or Myth, I would always go with that because it's going to give me so much more strength that it's going to the scaling with strength for Unholy Death Knight is just so important. It's going to increase every damage we basically do. So no matter what, every time I could get an item that is a higher upgrade level, I would go with that. If I got an item that was the same upgrade level, you know, the same upgrade level, for example, another weapon that was to Explore, then I would start looking at the secondary stats. But without, you know, well, if it is a high upgrade level, always go with it. If it was the same upgrade eye level, then I would look at the, you know, the secondary stats. So that's basically just a thumb rule, I would say. Beside of that, we have haste and mastery. So both haste and mastery are super important. Haste is helping you to get a very nice build that is very consistent, very like, you know, you have like a lot of damage out all the time. Mastery is helping more to like a very bursty rotation because basically, so if we get some more information up on the screen, we can actually see here, strength, main stat, directly boost all your ability, pets and disease, always take higher item level, gear for more strength. Yeah. Haste, accelerate rune regeneration, which basically means we're going to get more, the runes are going to be faster, like ready again to do more damage. And runic power gain, we're going to get more runic power because we're also attacking faster. Smoothing your single button assistant rotation with even lower global cooldown. So you know, normally when we use the single button assistant, it says the global cooldown is increased by 25%, which means normally when you use a spell, it takes 1.5 seconds for a spell to be ready again. But with this one here, it takes 1.8 seconds to be ready again. So with haste, we can actually reduce that, so it is less punishing compared to with having no haste. Beside of that, it also keeps your goals attacking faster, and also it makes like your I'm pretty sure it also makes you like your dots faster, like deal like fast. I'm pretty sure like the dots also deal faster, right? I think it is. I can't remember actually, but still, like it just makes everything faster, and it's just gonna make your entire rotation so much smoother. But mastery is increasing. It's the text here. Increase the damage of your minions and shadow damage abilities by 41% because I do have a mastery on 41%. But also increase the critical strike damage of your minions and disease. So basically, it's going to increase all the shadow damage, it's going to increase all the minion damage, and we're going to have a lot of minions. And it's also going to increase, whenever we crit with minions, all our disease damage over time, it's also going to crit for higher damage. Like it's going to increase the crit damage. So Mastery is also very powerful. Mastery though, the main reason for normally a lot of meta players, they play with more Mastery than Haste. Like they prioritize Mastery over Haste. That usually works really well when you put all your cooldowns together and have like a burst window. Since we use the single button resistant, we can't really control the burst window since it uses the cooldowns for us. The only cooldown we actually allow to use ourselves is Legion of Souls, which is like this one here, Legion of Souls. And if you play the raid build I have, it's Raise Abomination. So that's the only one. Rest of the cooldowns is automatically being used. So that's why I'm kind of like prioritizing Haste over Mastery. But again, you can see I have put it in the equal mark to basically say, you know what? Both Haste and Mastery is actually really good. So you go with which one you want. I would personally try maybe to get the more Haste to make the entire single button rotation more smooth. But Mastery is also very nice. So, you know, those two, if you can get an item that has both Haste and Mastery on, nice. But still, if I find an item that has crit and versatility and it has like a higher upgrade level, I would still go with that one because it's still more important to have more strength. Then we also have Critical Strike, increase your chance to deal double damage with abilities and pet attack, strong but slightly behind Haste and Mastery. And also we've got Versatility, which add a flat increase in damage and healing while reducing the damage you take. Reliable, but at least impactful for pure DPS output. So again, Versatility is going to make you more tanky, but it's gonna, like, it doesn't give you the same damage as the other ones are gonna give you. So again, crit is like fine, you know, whatever, it's fine. Give us more, like all your dots and all your disease, all your minions can do more crits, but in the end, Haste and Mastery is still gonna overall give you more damage on the paper. And crit and versatility is like, you know what, yeah, fine. I can live with that. But that is the stats. Let's move on to the talents. So a little introduction to the talents. So basically we have a dungeon build and we have a raid build. As you will notice here when we are changing, basically in the dungeon build, we have a lot of spells over here that deals AoE damage. So, you know, like a lot of damage to everyone around you. And the raid build is more focused on spells that is directly increasing your damage against the target or is only dealing a lot of damage to the current target you're attacking. So basically, again, the dungeon build is for like dungeon, delves, questing, leveling, basically anything in the game. And then the raid build is purely for raid where you want to do like single target damage. So yeah, raid build, single target damage. Dungeon build is for leveling, AoE damage, multiple target damage. So I would normally 9 out of 10 times I would use the dungeon build. And whenever I go actually into a raid, I would use the raid build since, you know, it's going to increase the damage we're going to do to a raid boss. And also you would see here in the dungeon build here, it actually has a lot of like crowd controls. It's using blinding sleet, cold first, asphyxiate, which is like a stun ability. And then you have the raid build, which doesn't use any of those because you're not going to be using crowd controls in a raid. I mean, you cannot stun the boss or, you know, make him slower. Like the bosses, they are not touchable in that way. So that's why we are removing those, and instead then we have like, you know, like utilities, like, you know, shorter cooldown on anti-magic zone, and some other small nice abilities. For example, when we use Magic Shell, Anti-Magic Shell, we give it to 2 other Nerby allies as well. But not in the dungeon build, because we want crowd controls here, since it's quite important in Mythic dungeons, delves, dungeons, so on. It can help you in many situations. Okay, so that was like a small introduction to the talents, and of course we're using Riders of the Apocalypse. Basically, no one is playing with Sandlane. When I look at the stats on different websites, I literally see, I can't see anyone actually using this one in the right side. So that's why we're just going to go with Riders of Apocalypse, because, yeah, basically everyone plays with it. So that's why we're going to go with it. So yeah, let's move on to, let's dive deeper into the talents and see what we actually are getting. So let's dive into the Death Knight tree in the left side. First of all, we have Icebound Fortitude. It's a crowd, well, not a crowd control. It's a defensive cooldown. You basically use it, you're granting immunity to stun and reduce all damage you take by 30% for 8 seconds. It's a great spell that you could use whenever, like, you know, there is like a bursting phase from the boss or mobs. You can use it to stay more alive and help the healer so he doesn't die that fast. We also have Death Strike, basically a spell that deals okay damage, but it also heals you for 40% of all the damage you have taken the last 5 seconds. And in case you haven't taken much damage, it actually just heals you then 11% of your maximum health. Very strong healing. In my current state, it's healing me like 1 million every time if I haven't taken damage. But of course, the more HP you have, the more damage you have taken, it will heal you even further. Then of course we have Raise Dead, which is our pet that we summon all the time, that is always with us, so very important. Then we also have auto attacks have a chance to generate free runic power. Also Death Strike cost reduced by 10 and its healing is increased by 60. And also this one here is very important, Cleaving Strikes. Clawing Shadow hits up to 7 additional enemies while you remain in the Death and DK. When leaving Death and DK, you retain this bonus effect for 4 seconds. So basically, that is why Death and DK is actually in our rotation. Because normally Death and DK deals like 100k damage, which isn't much when you think about, like, you know, it's 100k damage over 10 seconds for one rune, where we could be using this one here that deals 200k damage for one rune. Why should we be using this one here? Well, the only reason we actually use it is because of this one here. Because then, normally we have an attack called Scourge Strike, which is replaced by Clawing Shadow. Now, when we stand inside our Death DK, we actually attack 7 people with our Clawing Shadows, which is insane. So standing inside your Death DK is important because Clawing Shadow will then hit up to 7 additional enemies while you remain in Death and DK. So very important and something that all Death Knights, well, who plays Unholy should know, because, you know, if you don't know this one here, you might not be using the Death and DK, you may not be standing in it, you know, just a very important note. Then we also have Mind Freeze. It's basically our main crowd control spell. You know, whenever a boss casts a spell you can interrupt, or a mob casts a spell that you can interrupt, this is your main interrupting spell. We also have a mass stun. So basically, imagine you have 5 mobs standing in front of you. You don't want them to cast the spell they're doing. You use this one here. They all get, like, you know, kind of like a blinded. They just like walk around in a circle for 5 seconds. And again, the main reason we use this one here is to interrupt them so they don't cast the spell they are currently casting. Then we also have Anti-Magic Barrier, reduce the cooldown of Anti-Magic Shell by 20 seconds, and increase the duration and amount absorbed by 40%. Very nice. It's like one of our main abilities to keep us alive, since it can absorb up to 4.5 million magic damage. Insane. Also, it prevents application of harmful effects while you actually have it. And damage absorbed generates runic power. So actually, while absorbing, you get more runic power to do more damage, which is quite nice. Also, we have increased haste by 2. You know, since we talked about the stats, that haste is very important, so that's why we have this one here. We also have Cold First. Successfully interrupting an enemy with Mind Freeze grants 10 runic power and reduces its cooldown by 3 seconds. If you don't really like to use interrupt spells, I mean, if you do dungeons, you should be interrupting. You're helping your team so much by interrupting. But in case you don't really interrupt because you do a lot of solo content and you don't really enjoy like using the interrupt spell that much, you could remove it and, for example, take anything else like down here. For example, give Anti-Magic Shell to your teammates. Give this one here where you take 3% less AoE damage from mobs. You know, anything down here can kind of like help you with survive longer or even shorter cooldown on Anti-Magic Zone. But default, I am keeping this one here for you all, because this one here is very, very nice to use in dungeons where you interrupt, and it will actually grant you a reward by interrupting, since you're gonna get 10 runic power and it's gonna reduce the cooldown by 3 seconds. So that means you can actually interrupt already again after 12 seconds. Just letting you know. Then we also have this one here. Basically, all your auto attacks is going to give you an absorb shield up to 30% of the damage dealt. It's just nice because when you auto attack, it's just going to give you passively a shield, which is going to help you stay alive. We also have increased stamina by 12, which is going to give you an insane amount of more health. We also have your Ds have a chance to weaken your enemy, causing your attacks against them to deal 6% more damage for 5 seconds. So basically, your damage over time have a chance that we deal 6% more damage to them, which is quite nice. Also, your runic power spending abilities increase your melee attack speed by 6% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. So basically, every time you're using a runic power spending ability, so you can see here runic power, which is this one here, Death Coil is, for example, using runic power. So when you use runic power, it's actually going to give you this buff here where you increase your melee attack speed by 6% for 10 seconds. And it can stack up to 3 times. We also have Anti-Magic Zone, which is a very nice spell. You basically place this Anti-Magic Zone, and when you're standing inside it, it's basically reducing all magic damage taken by 15%. Very nice. Also, increase the effectiveness of your Runeforge weapon effects by 20%. So basically, you know, we are using, for example, you can see here, I am using the enchant called Rune of the Fallen Crusader, which is the enchant you can get for free as a Death Knight. So Rune of the Fallen Crusader, which has a chance to engrave your weapon with a rune that has a chance to heal you for 4% of your maximum health and increase your total strength by 18% for 15 seconds. Default, I like this one here because basically it just gives you 80% strength quite a lot of times. And it's just really, really nice. Like, I really like it. There might be tons of guys out there saying maybe something else, like maybe you should sometimes be using Apocalypse, or sometimes you should be using Stone Gargoyle since it gives you flat out 6% more stats. But me personally, I like Fallen Crusader. So that's the one I would go with because it heals you and it gives you more damage. So what's not to like? And this one here makes it 20% stronger. Then we also have Absorbs are 50% more effective on you. So basically Absorb from this passive one here, Magic Shield, is actually going to be 50% stronger. We also have the Stun here, which basically stuns your target for 5 seconds. And again, this is another one we're not using in Raid, since we cannot really stun anyone in a Raid. We would in Raid take this one instead, which is called Assimilation, which reduces the cooldown of Magic Zone, reduced by 60 seconds, and it increased the duration by 2 seconds. So normally it has a cooldown on 4 minutes, but in the raid build we use this one, so it only has a cooldown on 3 minutes. Then we also have Wrath Walk. So Wrath Walk is basically a spell that makes you run 70% faster for 4 seconds, but also, while active, your movement speed cannot be reduced by below 170%, which basically means you cannot get slower. It also removes all root effects and increase your movement, well, also remove root. So if you have like any root effects like entangling roots or anything like frozen, something like that, that makes your feet cannot move, it will also remove it, which is quite nice. Then we also have Soul Reaper. It's kind of like an execute spell. It basically, when you use it, it deals 100k damage. But then, after 5 seconds, if the target is below 35% health, it explodes and deals additionally 400k Shadow Frost damage to the target. And if the enemy yields experience or honor, honor dies while affected by Soul Reaper, you gain also runic corruption. So, you know, if it's a target that is actually higher level than you or in your level and it dies while this effect is on, this 5-second buff is on, you get runic corruption, which is this one here, which basically just each runic power you spend has 1.6 chance to increase your rune restoration by 100%. So for example, when you're leveling, questing, running around, killing a lot of different mobs, then every time you kill a mob with this one active on them, it will actually give you a lot of runes back because it's going to activate this one here. Again, you don't have to think about the spell here. It's inside a single button assistant, so you don't have to use it actively. It's going to use it for you. In the raid build, we also use suppression. So you can see when I switch to the raid build, it also takes suppression because again, we don't use the crowd control spells, which is going to reduce all the damage you take from AoE, like area of effects. But when suffering a loss of control effect, kind of like, you know, stun, sap, something, you know, where you cannot control your character, it's actually increasing up to 6% for 6 seconds. Yeah. Also, I have taken more leech. Funny enough, most people, they play not with this one here in the dungeon builds, and they play with this one instead. I kind of can see why this one is very nice in dungeons as well, because, you know, there's a lot of like AoE damage coming from mobs. But me personally, I feel like 3% leech is such an important thing, because of 3% leech, basically all the damage you deal, 3% of that is going to go back and self-heal you. And we have a lot of damage going out like all the time because we play Unholy Death Knight. So me personally, I feel like this 3% self-heal is such an important thing. So I'm not going to give this one up for this one over here. So yeah, again, it's up to you like which one of these two you want to play with. But for me personally, I want leech. Then we also have increase lich spawn duration by 2 seconds. And while active, and while active, damage taken is reduced by 15%. So now Lichborn is basically increasing. Well, Lichborn is now, normally it also increased our leech by 6%. And also now it is on 12 seconds instead of normally only 10 seconds. But also now we take 50% less damage. Also, it makes you immune for charm, fear, and sleep. So it basically just makes your your defensive ability even better. Then we also play with this one. Your auto attacks reduce the target auto attack speed by 5% and can stack up to 4 times. So yeah, basically we're making the enemies attack slower, which is quite nice. Also, your chance to be critical struck is reduced by 3%, and your armor is increased by 6%. Also, we have this one here. When you get below 30% health, you will drain 100k health from nervy enemies. So basically, you're going to heal that back. It's going to heal you back. You're going to heal that back to you. And also, the damage you take is reduced by 10%, and your death strike cost is reduced by 10 additionally for 8 seconds. And this can only happen every 2 minutes. So it's kind of like a thing that tries to save you instead of dying. Also, consuming a rune has a chance to increase your strength by 6% for 8 seconds. Very nice. Also, damage taken below 30% health is reduced by 35%. So basically, whenever you are below 30% health, all damage you take is reduced by 35, which is quite nice. Also, magic damage taken is reduced by 5%, just all time passively, and the duration of harmful magic effects against you are reduced by 35%. So whenever you get a harmful magic effect on you, that is on you for over time, it's now 35% reduced time on you, which is quite insane. And to the end, we are playing also with this one here, Death's Echo, which gives Death's Advance, Death and DK, and Death Grip 1 additionally charge. So basically, we now have 2 charges on them, which is also for Death Charge, because Death Charge is actually Death Advance. So now when we are using Death Charge, which gives you a mount on in combat for 10 seconds, we also have 2 charges on that one as well. So, very nice. In the raid build, we are playing with this one here, which is basically when you use your magic shield, it will also cast it on 2 additionally around you. Which is, pretty nice in a raid, that you can actually help with absorbing more damage on everyone. So yeah, but again, we cannot do that in dungeon build because we need it for the crowd control. But again, if you don't want the crowd control, the stun, the extra mind freeze up here, you could remove it and take some other nice survivability things down here. That's up to you. It's not going to affect your damage. It's all about survivability, crowd control, and stuff like that. Okay, so that was the Death Knight tree in the left side. Let's go to the middle one. Then in the very middle, we have Rider of the Apocalypse. So basically, first of all, this spec here is passively spending a rune has a chance to call forth the aid of a horseman for 10 seconds. So whenever you're using one of your runes, up here you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 runes. Whenever you use a spell that is using runes, you have a chance to summon one of these horsemen who's going to come and help you. Here you can see right now on the screen what they do. For example, Morgraine, he's casting a Death and DK at the location, which is also going to give you a bonus effects. Whitemane is casting Undeath, which is like a disease on the targets. Trollbane is casting Chains of Ice on the targets, which is also increasing the damage, and increased damage they take by 5%. And also, then we have Nasgrim, which is basically increasing your strength by 5%, but we have other down here that can actually increase it to even further. So again, of course, they also attacking, auto-attacking, so of course they also deal damage itself. Then, in the very bottom, we have Army of Dead and Frostworm Fury calls upon all 4 horsemen to aid you for 20 seconds. Now you might be asking, okay, Frostworm, that's not us, that's Frost Death Knight. Yes, correctly. But what about Army of the Dead? Yeah, we have technically Army of the Dead, but it's replaced by Legion of Souls in the dungeon build and Race of Abomination in the raid build. So dungeon build, we're using this one here, raid build, we're using this one here. When you use those, it actually triggers the effect that Army of Dead would have used. So actually, when you use these 2 cooldowns down here, which has a cooldown on 1.5 minutes, which is we have a number 2 spell, it will then summon all the 4 horsemen for 20 seconds, which is very nice. So, beside of that, We have Death Charge, which is basically replacing our Death Advance, which should just make you like run faster. But now for 10 seconds while upon Death Charge, your movement speed is increased by 100%, and you cannot be slowed below 100% of your normal attack, normal speed, and you are immune for forced movement effects and knockbacks. So basically, you know, those bosses like Dementias who uses that spell where everyone get like pushed and you have to like run forward. When you actually use this Death Charge, you ignore it. You can just stand still and you don't really care, which is so cool. And you could use it twice. So it's like you can have this horse on for 20 seconds and it only has like a 45-second cooldown, which is really insane. We also have when Clawing Shadows damages an enemy affected by Undeath, it gains 1 stack and affects another nearby enemy. So Undeath again is the spell that Whitemane is casting. So when you summon the Horsemen and you get Whitemane as one of the Horsemen, he puts on the curse Undeath. Then when you actually attack with Clawing Shadows, it will give it an additional stack on the target and it will spread that Undeath disease to another target. So it's just like a little fun extra disease you're going to be spreading around, which is very nice. Also, the damage of your disease and Death Coil are increased by 10%. Very nice. Also, your damage is increased by 5, and you gain the benefit of Death DK while inside Morgraine's Death DK, which is quite nice. And also, I mean, your damage is increased by 5%. That's just 5% increased damage. Like, okay, I'll take that. Then we also have, if an enemy dies while Nazgrim is active, the strength of Apocalyptic Conquest is increased by 3. So default, when Nazgrim is alive and summoned, we will get 5% increased strength. Now, if an enemy is dying while he is there, it's going to increase by 3%. Like, you know, it's just going to keep increasing for 3%. But additionally, each rune you spend also increases value by 1. So you can see it starts by 5%, but you could get it like way up because of all these, like either if an enemy dies or if you actually are using runes and so on. Very nice. Also, every 50 runic power you spend extends the duration of Horseman's aid combat from 1 second up to 5 seconds. So basically, if you're spamming runic power abilities, you're gonna keep like giving the Horsemen's like longer time together with you, which is quite nice, but only up to 5 seconds, sadly. Then we also have while at your aid, the Horsemen will occasionally cast anti-magic shell on you and themselves at 80% effectiveness, which is quite nice. So every 45 seconds, they're just gonna randomly cast an anti-magic shell on you for like, what is it, like 80%. So you're not gonna use it. You're just gonna wait for them to pop it on you, and then when it's done, you can use your own and basically have one on active like quite a lot. Also, when you're using Clawing Shadows, it will shatter Trollbane's Chain of Ice when hit, dealing almost 200k Shadow Frost damage to nearby enemies and slowing them by 40%. Deals reduced damage beyond 8 targets. So basically, when you summon the rider called Trollbane, he's going to be using Chains of Ice on the target, so they move slower and you increase damage by 5%. When that is on the target and you use Clawing Shadows, it will shatter, like explode, and it will deal 200k damage to everyone around it, which is quite nice. So, and again, it's a thing you don't have to think about, but just very nice. Also, Clawing Shadow deals 50% increased damage, and the cooldown of your Death DK is reduced by 5 seconds. So that was the middle tree. Very short, very nice, but yeah, very, very cool talent tree. So then we have the big one on the right side, the Unholy tree, which is this one is here, which is the one that is most reliable on what damage we actually deal. This is the one where every trait in here can really increase or lower the damage you deal. So basically, the dungeon build I have is all about spreading damage around you, like AoE damage, bursting, exploding stuff. The raid build then is all about dealing direct damage as much as possible. So we're going to start talking about the dungeon tree, and then slowly when we get down, I'm going to explain what we're using in the raid tree and not in the raid tree and so on. First of all, we have Festering Strike, which replaces Rune Strike. It just deals flat out like 129k damage, but it also infects the target with 2 Festering Wounds. See, this is if someone, if you are used to play Unholy Death Knight without a single bot in the system, you would know the rotation is basically apply festering wounds and explode festering wounds. Apply festering wounds, explode festering wounds. Sometimes against like bosses, mythic dungeons where it's very hectic, this can be a thing that is very easily to forget. You forget that you have to put on the festering wounds, you forget that you have to explode them. Using the single bot on the system is so good for this because it will automatically handle it for you. It will automatically apply the festering wounds that you need to apply, and it will automatically use the spells when you need to burst them. Basically, imagine festering wound is like, it's like a pimple, or what do you call it? Like it's like kind of one of those like you can like squish. So basically, you're gonna make all these pimples or whatever you call them on your enemies, and then whenever you use a spell that actually pops them, they will explode and deal damage. So you can see here, Festering Wound, a pestilent lesion that will burst on death, or when damaged by clawing shadows, dealing 50k damage and generating 3 runic power. So that's why that Festering Strike is the one that actually applies these. Festering Strike is the one that actually makes these wound at the target, and then Clawing Shadow is actually the one that is popping them. It's quite gross, but I mean that's also what the Unholy Tree is about. It's all about being a gross, creepy, demon, like not even demon, more like an unholy zombie summoning guy. I mean, just look at the image up here. So yeah, basically, that's what I'm trying to say. Then we have Scourge Strike, which is technically replaced by Clawing Shadows. So yes, we have the Scourge Strike here, but I don't really need to read it because it is replaced by Clawing Shadows, which deals 200k damage, and it will burst one of our festering wounds. So basically, it's going to deal 200k damage plus the 50k damage from bursting a wound. And then also critical strikes cause the festering wound to burst for 20% increased damage. So when it actually crits, it's going to burst for even more damage. Then we have Raise That Again. Basically why we have Raise That Again is because this one here only has a 30-second cooldown, and it's also the one that actually makes it run with you all the time. This one over here would only make it run with you for 1 minute, but this one over here is actually the one that actually makes it run with you forever. And it also has only a 30-second cooldown in case your pet gets killed. So yeah, it's kind of like the empowered version. You could say, do we actually need this one over here? But I mean, we can't even remove it, so that's not even like a topic. Like you can remove Death Strike and Icebound, but you're not allowed to remove Raise That. So yeah, we need both. Yeah. Then we have Sudden Doom as well. So Sudden Doom is your auto. This one here has been changed a lot of times over the last many months, weeks. Now what it does is your auto attacks have a 25% chance to make your next Death Coil or Epidemic to critical strike. So yeah, so when you auto attack, there's a chance, 25% chance that you cannot get a buff, which is gonna tell you that your next Death Coil or Epidemic is gonna be a crit. Additionally, your next Death Coil will cost 10 less runic power and burst 1 festering wound, which is quite nice. I mean, it's very nice that again we're gonna be bursting one of the wounds, and it's gonna be costing 10 less runic power, which is quite nice. Then we also have Dark Transformation. So basically, what this one here does is that it makes your pet explode and deal 60k shadow damage to nearby enemies, 5 nearby enemies, and transform into a powerful undead for 15 seconds, granting them 100% energy, and the guy's abilities are, the pet's abilities are empowered and take a new function while transforming is active. We actually don't have this spell anymore, the Dark Transformation. It gets replaced by what is it called here? Apocalypse. So we used to have Dark Transformation and Apocalypse as 2 different spells, but now they have changed the talent tree, so Apocalypse is actually replacing Dark Transformation. It was also like a super annoying spell using like back in the days, because you had like this one here and this one here. Like there was so many spells you had to use in the burst, but now this one here is replaced by Dark Transformation, which is very nice. Okay. So yeah, so now, okay, so we're gonna come back to this one here. So again, this one here is automatically being used inside this one here. So don't worry, it's gonna be used, but it's inside this one here. Yeah. Then we have your disease deal 10% more damage, and you have 5% increase chance to critical strike. Very nice. Also, critical strike damage of your minions is increased by 15. Also, Death Coil and Epidemic increase the duration of Dark Transformation by 1 second. So when we actually transform our pet, it now increases this duration of it by 1 second every time we use Death Coil or Epidemic. Then we also have Dark Transformation surround your goals with Vile Swarm of Insects for 6 seconds, stinging all nervy enemies and infecting them with Virulent Plague and an Unholy Disease that deals 46k damage over 14 seconds. So basically we have this spell here called Outbreak, which is also giving on Virulent Plague. But now, this one here does that it actually, when you're using Dark Transformation through Apocalypse, it will automatically affect all the enemies around you, so you don't have to affect everyone, but your pet is going to do that automatically now, which is quite nice. It can also even stack up to even further stacks, so it can deal even more damage. Then we also have Plaguebringer. Scourge Strike causes your diseases damage to occur 100 more quickly for 10 seconds. So when you actually use Scourge Strike, we don't have Scourge Strike anymore, so it's going to be Clawing Shadows. It's going to increase how much more often your disease, your damage over time abilities is going to deal damage more like 100% more quickly, which is quite nice. Because we want the damage over time abilities to deal more damage over quickly, because that's going to give you more damage per second, more DPS, which is very nice. Then we have Apocalypse, which is basically replacing Dark Transformation. What happens is bring Doom upon the enemy, dealing 66k shadow damage and bursting up to 4 festering wounds on the target. So it's going to burst 4 of these wounds up here we're seeing. Also, it's going to summon 4 Army of the Dead goals for 20 seconds. So it's going to be summoning like 4 zombies as well. So it's going to summon 4 zombies and it's going to transform your pet into this monstrosity. Then we have Clawing Shadow. We already talked about this one here, but basically it's the empowered version of Scourge Strike, but also this one here, I forgot to say that, it also has 30-yard range. So that means we can actually now deal a lot of damage from ranged combat, since we can cast plagues, we can summon pets, and we can even like now use Clawing Shadow from 30-yard range. Of course, going melee is still the best, since Festering Strike is actually a melee ability, but still, it allows us to deal a lot of damage even though we are not close to the target, and the single button system will automatically use abilities out, like if you're close to them or far away, it knows automatically which one to use. Then we also have Reaping. Your Soul Reaper, Clawing Shadows, Festering Strike, and Death Coil deal 30% additional damage to enemies below 35% health. Very nice. Soul Reaper Execute effects increases the damage of your minions by 10% for 8 seconds. Also very nice. So basically, yeah, just like a execute spell. So whenever, like, you know, not an execute spell, but more like a passive. So whenever we attacking an enemy that is below 35% health, we just deal like 30% damage with all these spells, which is quite nice. Yeah. In the raid build, we are actually using this one here, All Will Serve. Basically, when you summon your minion, your goal, you also summon a skeleton archer, which just keeps like shooting arrows, which deals like 30k damage, which if I understand, because it keeps shooting this blighted arrow, which says here deals 30k damage. Though there is one thing: when consuming Sudden Doom, your Death Coil commands your archer to fire an additionally blight arrow at 80% effectiveness. And Epidemic will instead cause blight arrow to ricochet and hit up to 5 additional targets. So basically, when you use Death Coil, it commands the archer to fire an additional blighted arrow at 80% effectiveness. So when you actually consume Sudden Doom, you know the Sudden Doom, this one here up here, where your auto attacks have a chance to give you Sudden Doom, which makes your next Death Coil Epidemic always to be critical strike. Now, if you use that Sudden Doom on Death Coil, it shoots an additional arrow out, but if you use it on an Epidemic, it will then shoot an arrow, which is going to jump between 5 targets, which is quite nice. You could say, okay, why are we not using this one for Mythic as well? But it's not as strongest of a like AoE talent we have. But still, for the single target raid build, we're using this one here. Then we have Even Feather. Disease deal 12% more damage over time in half the duration. This one here could sometimes be hard to play with if you maybe are a casual player, something like that, because now, before my disease was on the target for 26 seconds, now it's only going to be like, I think maybe even 28 seconds. Now it's only going to be there for 14 to 13 seconds, but it's going to deal all the damage it usually normally did over 26 seconds. It's going to deal that instead on half the time, and also deal 12% increased damage. But using the single button system, we don't have to think about this because it will automatically apply it whenever you need to apply it, which is very nice. So that basically means your disease is going to be shorter time on your enemies, but it's going to deal way more damage over that shorter time, which is quite nice. Then we also use this one here for the raid build. So then we have bursting swords. Basically, this one here is only one we're using in the dungeon build and not the raid build. So bursting a festering wound. Again, this is, we're getting festering wounds from festering strike, and then we're using clawing shadows and apocalypse to burst them. But now, when we are bursting them, festering wound is dealing 60% more damage and deals 25k shadow damage up to 7 nearby enemies. So it's still going to deal that normally 45k to 50k damage when you burst them, but now it's going to be increased by 60%, that burst damage, the normal burst damage, this 45k damage, but also it's going to explode and deal 25k damage to everyone around you up to 7 targets, which is quite amazing. It really helps you in Mythic and Cleave situation and Delves, and just like, whenever you have more than one mob, it really helps dealing more damage to everyone around you, which is super, super nice. Then we have Magus of the Dead. So when you're using Apocalypse and Army of the Dead, also summons a Magus of the Dead who hurls frostballs and shadow balls at your foes. What this means is basically when you're using Legion of Souls or Race of Abomination, because they are actually replacing they're both replacing Army of the Dead. So when you actually use one of these two spells here, it will summon like a mage, like a skeleton mage, and also Apocalypse is also going to summon a skeleton mage, which is just going to be standing and casting frostballs and shadow balls, which is, again, more damage. Then we have, over here, we have Harbinger of Doom, Sudden Doom, which is this one up here again, the one that auto attacks had a chance to trigger. Sudden Doom now triggers 30% more often and can accumulate up to 2 charges. So basically you don't have to use it ASAP. Now we're going to have up to 2 charges stored. And increase the damage of your next death coil by 40% or epidemic by 20%. So when it actually now happens, Sudden Doom, which is going to be happening way more often, it's actually going to deal way, way more damage as well, which is quite nice. I didn't do anything. Okay, cool. And then if we go back to the raid build, there we go. Yes, we don't have this one here. Then we also have here Festering Scythe. So every 20 wound that you burst, empower your next Festering Strike, which is this one up here, to become a Festering Scythe. Festering Scythe sweep through all your enemies within 14 yards in front of you. So basically you're going to be swinging out like a big scythe in front of you, dealing 260k shadow damage and infecting them all with 2 to 3 Festering Wounds. Which is really nice because imagine now when this actually happens, all the enemies in front of you is going to get Festering Wounds. Now when you use Death and DK, you're going to be attacking up to 7 targets, which all has affected, and now when you attack them with Clawing Shadows through Death and DK, they all gonna explode and deal Festering Wound damage, and they all gonna explode and deal damage to each other. Like it's gonna be like a big damage party. So yeah, very, very nice combination with Mythic talents. But again, these two over here, which is very AoE damage, is not used in the raid build. Then we also have your Gold's Claw attack, has a 30% chance to cause a Festering Wound on the target. So that basically means we are not alone anymore of like applying these Festering Wounds now. Our gold pet can now also apply them, which is very nice. Then we have Menacing Magus. This one is only for the dungeon build as well, it's not in the raid build. But basically your Magus of the Dead Shadow Ball now fires a volley of Shadow Balls at up to 8 nerby enemies. So first he's going to cast a Frost Ball, a normal Frost Ball. Then after that he's going to cast a Shadow Ball, but with this one here, the Shadow Ball now deals up to 8 target, like it attacks like, it's like a missile, where it's like attacking like 8 targets. Really, really cool. But it's, again, this is going to help us in dungeon delves, questing, AoE, you know, all that. In the raid build, we are using these two, as you can see over here. So this one here, Death Coil, causes the target to take an additional 30% additional 30% of D-rate damage dealt over 4 seconds. So now Death Coil is going to deal even more damage over 4 seconds on that target. As you can hear, a very, very boss focused thing. Like, you know, you are just increasing, like you're just dealing more damage to that target you target. So again, that's why we're not using this one in Mythic or Delve build or Dungeon build, but using it in the raid build. Then we also have Sudden Doom, cause your next Death Coil to also increase your clawing shadow damage against the target by 60% against the target. Again, very raid focused. Again, this is why we only use these two over here for raid. Good. Then we have Death Rod. Death Coil and Epidemic debilitate your enemy, applying a Death Rod, causing them to take 1% increased shadow damage, up to 10% from you for 10 seconds. If Death Coil or Epidemic consumes Sudden Doom, it applies 2 stacks of Death Rod. So basically, every time you use Death Coil and Epidemic, it will give it like a debuff on them, which is going to increase the damage you're going to deal to them, increase the shadow damage you deal to them, so by 1%, and it can stack all the way up to 10% by 10 stacks. And I was testing this quite a lot, and when you use the single button system, it will keep reapplying. Well, it will keep making sure that it reapplies them with Death Coil and Epidemic, so it never goes off. Well, in my case, it never went off. I always had, like, you know, it was always on. It always came up to 10 stacks, and it kept being on 10 stacks, which is quite nice. Then we have Army of the Dead. It's a spell that supposedly was, you know, a 3-minute cooldown where you summon a lot of, like, undeads, but it is replaced by Legion of Souls, and it is also replaced by Race of Abomination. We're using Legion of Souls in dungeons because it's like an AoE ability that deals a lot of damage to everyone around you, and it also applies up to 6 Festering Wounds over 12 seconds to all nervy enemies and reduce damage over 5 targets. Also, it grants you the benefits of standing in Death and DK, so basically when you have Legion of Souls active, your Clawing Shadow is also again going to attack up to 7 targets, which is quite nice. Just a very nice AoE damage ability, which of course we need in dungeon delves and so on, so on, so on. But in raids, we're using this one instead, called Raise Abomination. You raise an Abomination for 30 seconds, which wanders and attack enemies, applying Festering Wound when it melee melee targets. And hold on. Applying Festering Wound when it melees targets and affecting all those nerby with Virulent Plague. So it's just gonna like spread like Virulent Plague, like the damage or time ability to everyone around it. But it's keeping, like, every time it attacks, it keeps like adding like Festering Wounds. So it's probably gonna add more Festering Wounds that Legion of Souls, which is why this one here is more preferred for single target, and this is one more preferred for like AoE. Yeah. Then we also have this one here, Doomed Biting. So yes, we are actually not playing with Gargoyle, we are playing with Doomed Biting. So now, consuming Sudden Doom calls upon a Magus of the Dead to assist you for 6 seconds. So basically this mage here, we are already summoning by Apocalypse and already summoning by using our Legion of Souls, is now also summoned every single time we are using Sudden Doom. And remember, Sudden Doom is now happening even more because of Harbinger of the Doom. So now we're going to be using a lot of Sudden Dooms, and it's going to be summoning a lot of like skeletal mages, which is very nice. Then we also have this one. Every time you're popping a Festering Wound, I hate the word popping. Popping a Festering Wound increase your strength by 2% for 20 seconds. Stacking. That's a weird use true percent for 20 seconds stacking. Multiple instances may overlap. So basically, yeah, this can like stack over time. But every time you're popping, you're getting more strength, and it's going to overlap and disappear after 20 seconds. This one we already talked about. And then we have all enemies within 8 yards take 20% increased damage from your minions. Very nice. Also, we have Unholy Assault. So you're striking your target, dealing 168k damage, shadow damage, applying 4 festering wounds to the target, so it's kind of like ready for you to burst on, and sending you into an Unholy Frenzy, increasing all damage done by 20% for 20 seconds. So basically, you're going to be increasing all the damage you deal by 20% for 20 seconds. So deals 170k damage, adds 4 festering wounds, and increase all damage you do for 20% for 20 seconds. What's not to like? And very lastly, Dark Transformation also empowers your Gargoyle and Army of the Dead for 20 seconds, increasing the damage by 45 seconds. So still, when you're using, for example, Apocalypse, it summons 4 Army of the Dead goals. So that will, of course, also increase the damage of those. We don't have the Gargoyle, but we still have the Army of the Dead from Apocalypse every 45 seconds. So those are still going to get increased damage from this one here. Whoosh. That was the talents. Now we are ready to talk about the rotation. So, when it comes to rotation is quite simple on the Unholy Death Knight. There's just only one thing you really have to think about. So when you play the dungeon build, you are having your normal single button assistant, and you have your Legion of Souls, which is like this one here that is dealing damage to everyone around you. When you're playing the raid build, you're gonna have Raise Up a Nation instead here down here, and your single button assistant spell. When you should use your Legion of Souls or Raise Up a Nation should be after. So basically your single button assistant is going to be using all these spells here. It's going to be using, first it's going to be using a Festering Strike, then it's going to be using, it's kind of going to be using Unholy Assault, which is going to apply 4 Festering Wounds, then it's going to be using Apocalypse, and then basically you have already used 2 of your very strong AoE abilities, the cooldown abilities. Then you should be using your manually cooldown. So as you can see here, when you get close to the target, first it will use Outbreak, which you can see there. It should damage your time ability. Then you want to use a Death DK because there's a lot of enemies. So now when we are standing inside a Death DK, it will use this passive one here where our Clawing Shadows is going to automatically hit up to 7 targets. So you can see here again, we're going to use our Disease. It would use Death DK if it could. And now it's going to use Unholy Assault, which is going to apply 4 Festering Wounds. It's going to use Apocalypse. And now you want to use your spell, your cooldown. And then you're just going to be pressing 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So I kind of hope that makes sense. We keep using 1 all the time because it's going to be using Unholy Assault, then Apocalypse. Then you should manually press Legion of Souls or your Abomination. And then you just press 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Then the cool thing is both Legion of Souls and Abomination has the same cooldown as Unholy Assault. So whenever the cooldown is actually automatically, whenever your single button assistant is automatically going to use Unholy Assault again, you will be using as well Legion of Souls. So when it uses, your Unholy Assault automatically again, like you imagine you're on a boss fight, which is going to take more than 1.5 minutes, then it's going to be using again automatically Unholy Assault. You will see it because you can see here on the right side, for example, if you go into options, gameplay enhancement, you can enable in a cooldown manager. Then if you import my UI, so you get the same UI as me, you will see here that I have it out here, and it will show me when I have Unholy Assault on. We can even go in here and actually choose like which spells we want to like show here. So I do like having Unholy Assault on. So now let's see here. Let's wait a few seconds just to try and help you. So now you can see here, we're going to use our AoE. It's going to use Unholy Assault. Now you can see it's active here. It's going to use Dark Transformation. And now we're going to use our number 2. Because when it uses Apocalypse, it will activate Dark Transformation. So it's very easy for you. You can just see here on the right side, when you see Unholy Assault and Dark Transformation, both of them out here, then you use your cooldown. Whenever then again after 1.5 minute in combat, you see, you know, Dark Transformation again, not Dark Transformation, because that one is actually going to be using before, since it only has a 45-second cooldown. But when you see again Unholy Assault here, the I one, then you use your cooldown, and then you just keep using it together with that one. That is technically the entire rotation. Like, honestly, that's the rotation. You press one, it's going to keep up all the damage or time abilities for you. It's going to keep adding festering wounds. It's going to keep removing festering wounds. And you have to use your Legion of Souls or Raise Up Abomination whenever you see it uses this one here, Unholy Assault. So just use it together with that. Because whenever you use Legion of Souls, you will also summon the 4 Horsemen, which is very nice, of course. It's also going to be summoning... isn't it also going to be summoning a Magus? Yeah, it's also going to be summoning a Magus as well. I'm pretty sure that, yeah. So that's your damage rotation, 1-1-1, and whenever it uses Unholy Assault, right? Unholy Assault, you're going to be using your number 2. No matter if it is Abomination you have or you have Legion of Souls. And if you go to the raid build, it's exactly the same rotation. Nothing different. The only thing with the raid build is that you don't have these 2 spells here, so you have like 2 more slots for your spells. Then for self-healing, we have Death Strike. So basically, you know, when you so you can see whenever you have like enough runic power, you can use Death Strike. Of course, the single body rotation is going to keep trying using your runic power, so it's not always thinking about if you should actually use Death Strike. But in case you can see you're about to die, you can use Death Strike, and boom, it heals you for 1 million HP, which is nice. It's kind of like your self-heal spell. At the same time, it deals damage, but it also heals you, which is very nice. Then we have Anti-Magic Shell for 40 seconds. It's going to give you the shield on. No, sorry, not 40 seconds. It has a 40-second cooldown. But for 7 seconds, it's going to give you this shield on, which is going to absorb all the damage, all magic damage, and you cannot be casted harmful magic effects on you as well. Then, if one of these mobs here was about to cast a spell we don't want them to cast, you can use your Mind Freeze, which can actually be used up to 15 yards, so like this, and interrupt it. That was my cape that I attacked. Then we also have Death Charge, which is the spell here, where you can, like, you know, you can see how you get down on a mount, and you can actually attack while you do that, which is super cool. So yeah. Makes you very fast, and you cannot get pushed back, so when you have one of those bosses that, like, pushes you back, it ignores it, totally ignores it. Then we have Death Grip, very nice spell in case you need to, like, you know, help the tank to grip some mobs. In the raid build, we have this one here. When you pull an enemy, the damage they deal to you is reduced by 6%. So I'm pretty sure... I'm pretty sure what they mean by that is when you use your Death Grip on them, even if it's a boss, they're going to deal less damage to you. That's how I understand it. I just see everyone in the raid build using this one here. When I look at people, what raid talents they use. Then we also have Wrath Walk. It's another like running spell we have, but you cannot, like, if you use a spell at the same time you use it, it's gonna like interrupt it. But basically, it's gonna remove all root effects from you. It's gonna make you run faster, but also remove also, like, if you are frozen in place or, you know, you cannot move because some kind of like effect, you can use it to get out of it. Then we have Icebound Fortitude. Basically, it's gonna make you immune for both being stunned, but granting immunity to stun, and also reduce all damage you take by 30%. So basically, yeah, it's a defensive cooldown. Then we also have Lichborn. Does a lot of things, increasing leech by 6%, reducing damage taken by 50%, and make you immune for charms, fear, and sleep. So, another great thing. In case you don't want to have 2 defensive cooldowns, you could technically make a macro here, which puts them both together, and then you would pop both effects, but some people like to have 2 different defensive cooldowns you can use over 2 different boss burst fights. So I mean, we don't have many spells anyway, so it's up to you if you want to combine them, but you can see the macro here to combine them. But I would personally not combine them, because when you use Lichborn, you're also becoming an undead, which means you can actually cast a Death Coil on yourself. So if I had Lichborn, like Death Coil on my bar here, imagine you're running away, you're far away from a mob, you're not able to attack them with Death Strike, then I can target myself and cast Death Coils on myself if I have runic power, and if I have Lichborn on. Because you can cast Death Coil on friendly undeads and heal them for 400k. It's way less than Death Strike, but still, it's a way for you to heal yourself, use Lichborn, and then use Death Coil on yourself, and it's going to heal you like 400k. It's not very efficient, but I just wanted to let you know that you can actually do that. Then we have a stun, in case the target is about to like cast something we don't want to, or help the tank take a little bit less damage. We can stun it. Mostly people use it for interrupting. Then we also have blinding sleet. It makes them all blinded, so they all stop like doing whatever they do. So again, you're gonna be interrupting like a lot of mobs at the same time again. Very nice. So crowd control, crowd control, crowd control. And then we also have Chains of Ice, which basically just makes them run 70% slower for up to 8 seconds. That's it. Then of course you also have your pet. It basically has Claw that it automatically uses, which deals 50k damage, but also deals 22k damage when it actually is transformed by Apocalypse. But then it deals 22k damage and also all damage to all enemies nearby. So it will also like kind of like attack everyone. Also it has Gnaw, which is a stun for 1 second. You could technically remove it so it doesn't do it automatically, and then you could put it down to your keybinds somewhere. Like for example, you could, I don't know, it's up to you. Like you could add one more bar to your keybinds, and then you could use it, because then you control when the pet is supposed to like stun the target. So you actually get one more interrupt. Most pro players, they are probably doing that because they want to have like one more stun ability to interrupt your mobs. But it's up to you if you want to have like one more. You could also replace it with Chains of Ice, because I mean, Chains of Ice is not that effective. Like, you don't need it that much in a dungeon. So now, for example, I actually have 4 interrupts with my pets. So just to let you know, that's an option as well. And then we also have Leap, what basically just leaps to a target. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And of course it also has Huddle, where you could use it, and then it will basically just take like 50% damage, less damage, in case your pet is like about to die. But that's a spell again you also manually have to use. But yeah, that's up to you if you want to use your pet spell automatically by just having it on all the time, because then it will keep stunning the targets automatically for you. Or if you want to disable it and put it down in your bar yourself, that's on you. Okay, that was the rotation. Very simple. Let's try and do a gameplay, a dungeon, and see how it goes. Alright, here we go. Why do I always get this dungeon here when recording? So basically, when you start attacking, you will just be pressing 1111. Now we have a lot of trash mobs, so I'm going to be using 2 as well. We can see we got some decent damage out right now, 2nd place right now. I still don't think everyone has like a tank right now, but we're getting some decent damage out. When you start attacking automatically and pressing 1, you can see it will automatically use like Death and DK. Now of course he runs out of it, which is a bit shame. But it will automatically choose between Death Coil and Epidemic. Epidemic is like a spell that deals damage to everyone who has your debuff on. I'm pretty sure it's how it works. So it will automatically switch between spells where single target LE damage, so you don't really have to think about it. You just press 111, and now you can see it actually goes really well for my damage. Like really, really good. I'm gonna click here on the highest one with the highest life here, the big one, because then I can spam more one on him. I'm gonna try, and now we summoned our horseman, which had like the effect of Death and DK, so it was actually attacking everyone. Very nice. And when your Death and DK is blinking like this, it's actually free to use, but that's because we have killed a target or something like that with yielding XP. This tank likes to pull quite a lot of mobs. But as you can see, we're doing quite a lot of damage. The Shaman, he is not following. The Demon Warlock, he's just behind us. And the tank is doing quite a lot of damage as well. So as you can see, we're doing quite decent AoE damage with this build here. I mean, those guys, they're probably doing their best following some kind of like rotation where I'm pressing 1. Is it set to... yeah, it is set to current sequence. Okay. Doing very, very good. I like this damage. Oh. Oh my god. My pit wasn't passive, so my pits didn't even attack. Oh my god. Okay, well, you saw me fail big time, so now you know that you also need to think about that next time. Always make sure your pit is actually on attack, because all this time, my pit has just been on passive. And when your pit is on passive, I'm pretty sure the horsemen are not going to attack as well. They're still going to use their spells, but I don't think they're actually going to attack. Wow, I am such a boomer. But now we can see, now I suddenly got way more like damage, like it actually increased my damage by a lot. Because suddenly we actually deal damage with our pit now. Now I hope he's gonna go on the boss very soon, because now it's about to use my cooldowns, which I don't want. Oh no, it actually used Unholy Assault. No, I wanted to save that one for the boss. Well, it is what it is. So we're just gonna be using number 2. It would have been really nice having my Unholy Assault for the boss actually, but that's the thing with single button assistant. You never know what spells it keeps using all your cooldowns whenever it's ready. So, wow, the Elemental Shaman is actually now coming back. Look at that. So he definitely didn't do much single target, like AoE damage. Like on AoE damage he was far behind. But on single target he actually did quite good. Impressive. But wow, imagine I've been playing the entire half the dungeon with my pit on follow, not doing anything. Oh, that is so dumb. No, big AoE damage, big AoE damage. Don't care that I stood in that one, I needed that damage. The tank is doing quite some good damage, honestly. But I do know monk tanks, they do quite a hefty damage. Pressing 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And soon it's about to use, look at that, number 1. Far in front of the 2 other DPSs. Using our mount to get a bit faster out. Oh, someone left. That was the tank, okay. Well, that shaman, he definitely didn't think we needed it. Oh, there we go. An Unholy Assault and then my number 2 at the same time. Oh, no. He actually hauled in a lot of mobs. Yeah, that's not good. Well, maybe we can do so much damage that we can actually one-shot the tank, so... Let's see if... Wait. I need healing. There we go. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Burst him down, burst him down. Healing, 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 healing. Burst him down. Yeah, my damage is Omega. I am carrying this team. Look at that, look at that, look at that. Kill, 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 kill. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. And did you see the damage as well? I mean, I kind of felt like we are carrying the team and we are using the single button assistant. If someone who hated the single button assistant saw this, they would be shocked. Alright, look at that. Wait, how did the healer die? Okay, we're gonna put some anti-magic shell on. We're gonna use Icebound Fortitude. Gonna be using my number 2 spell. Try and see if we can take some aggro off of these. I should probably have taken down Taunt, but I mean, It's not because I expect it to be tanking and unholy. Oh, we need to get out some death strikes. Look at the damage. Lovely damage. And then we're gonna pull one of these only. There we go. He's gonna shoot a beam. Move away. Well, that's first time I've ever tried tanking as an unholy. It's gonna be a very different gameplay video from other dungeons I've recorded. Ooh, suddenly the Warlock did a lot of damage with Hit Lord. Alright, now we just... Yeah, this will be interesting to see if we can do the boss without a tank. Well, they want to try, so let's do it. Let's see if we can actually defeat the boss without a tank. I doubt it, but let's see. Let me just get town down, because I think that's going to help a lot. I am able to take a bit more damage than the Warlock. He's doing good damage to Warlock right now. Is it now you have to stand under one of these? Isn't it now you have to like stand on them? Yeah, you have to stand on them. So of course while we're doing this I won't be able to do much damage. And the Warlock he's not doing any mechanics. He's just purely damaging. I'm just gonna use an anti-magic shell here, some self-heal, some self-heal. Oh shit. Okay, we're doing good, we're doing good. Oh shit. Oh shit. I have to pop defensives and self-heals. We need to disable these or else he's not going to take any damage. And the Warlock, he refuses to help. There we go, now we can kill him. Nice, Unholy Assault is on. GG. Okay, I did not expect us to actually finish the boss with the last boss. I mean, because all of us only has exactly the amount of eye level to actually do heroic dungeons, so that was surprisingly. All right, let's go to the summary. Alright, let's do a quick summary before we end the video. So first of all, let's talk about stats. You need strength first of all. Always try to go with the highest eye level. So as you can see on the screen, always try to go with the highest upgrade levels. So you know your items have upgrade levels, like my weapon is Explore. So that means I would always take any weapon that is higher than Explore. So Adventure, Veteran, Champion, Hero, Myth. So always go with the one that has the highest upgrade level, or just basically for Unholy Death Knights, any eye level higher is usually better. But if you get an item that has the same upgrade level, then you should start looking at your secondary stats. Haste and Mastery is the two very, very most important ones. Haste makes just everything faster and better, and just makes the entire thing better. Mastery is also good. It increases all your shadow damage, all your disease damage, all your shadow damage, and all your let's just take it here. All the shadow damage, minion damage, and it makes your minions and crit damage deal more damage. So very, very nice. Crit and Facility is okay, not the best, but we would rather have Haste and Mastery over Critical and Versatility. Beside of that, the rotation is very straightforward. You're basically using your number 1. It will first use Unholy Assault, then Apocalypse, and then you're going to use your number 2. So that's actually the entire rotation. You spam 1, it will then, in the process, use Unholy Assault first, because that will actually give 4, it will create 4 of what is called Festering Wound, and then it's going to be using Apocalypse, which is going to use them all, like it's going to blow them all up, deal a lot of damage, and also it's going to summon all your, a lot of minions as well, like 4 minions, and then you're going to be using your spell Legion Souls, which is the one that's going to summon all your 4 horsemen. We both have a build for dungeon, and we have one for raid. So both a dungeon build and raid build, both of them you can find on my Discord. As usually, always on my Discord, all my builds over there. The raid build is very focused on single target damage, and the dungeon build is very focused on AoE damage. So I would always use the dungeon build in both dungeon, delves, questing, leveling, just anything, and the raid build is only for the raiding. But very straightforward. You press 1 whenever it uses both the cooldowns, Unholy Assault, Apocalypse, then you're going to be using number 2. In a longer fight against a boss that doesn't die very fast, you're going to be using your number 2 again whenever it's about to use Unholy Assault again. You will be able to see when it uses because you get a buff, but also with my UI, in case you're using it, you have to go and enable Gameplay Cooldown Manager. And then if you're importing my UI, for example, you will have this one here on called Tracker Bars, and it will show you, for example, I press 1, and now I can see Unholy Assault is active, and it also used my Dark Transformation, then I know I need to press 2. So whenever I can see Unholy Assault and Dark Transformation is active, I press 2. Of course, if it's a longer boss fight, it's not going to get on Dark Transformation, because that's one only has like a 40-second cooldown. Then I'm just waiting for Unholy Assault, and I will press 2, because Legion Souls and Raise Abomination has the same lane cooldown as Unholy Assault. So those two has to be used together, but in this start we're going to get all 3 cooldowns for the burst. Very simple. So that was the stats, that was the rotation. We have the talents, again we have a dungeon build, we have a raid build. Very simple. They are on the Discord, and yeah, that's pretty much everything you need to know in the summary. So thanks for watching, it was great having you all coming by to this video. In case you, again, want to find the builds, the talents, the UIs, you can find it on my Discord. And that's pretty much it. The next video I'm probably going to make after this one here will be the Demonology Warlock video, which I'm looking forward to. It will be very, very nice. Yeah, and in case you want to support the channel further on, you're welcome to become a YouTube member, which is, of course, supporting me, making more videos, and you're going to be having your name at the end of the video, it's going to be like in the scrolling showing your name at the video, and you're going to have a little badge next to your name and some other perks and exclusive content like behind the scenes. I haven't done much yet, but I'm going to get to it, so don't worry, members who's watching right now, I will get to exclusive content. So yeah, again, thanks for watching. I appreciate you all for supporting my journey on with doing all these guides. It's been fantastic. you're all loving it so far, getting so many happy comments and private messages. So yeah, thank you for supporting me and enjoying these videos. Peace out.